Bloomberg's Boston bureau chief Tom Maroney caught up with Boston Mayor Marty Walsh and discussed Amazon's HQ2 search after the tech giant announced it's expanding its Boston hub.
I actually don't think it has any impact at all on it. I just think that this is a separate piece that Amazon did. They were negotiating for many months here with the developer and with us indirectly with the city. So I actually think a lot of people are saying, oh my God, that must be a good sign for HQ2. Right. I don't think it has any impact on it at all. I think it's two very different, distinct projects that they work on.
Do you have any inside knowledge you want to share with us now about whether Boston's going to get the headquarters?
No, other than that, we're in the mix. That's all I can say.
All right. What are you looking for from Amazon? Should they bring the second headquarters here? I know GE, for instance, made a big, generous donation to the public schools. What would be Amazon's ante-up, so to speak?
Well, I think number one, Amazon providing jobs across the board for all different people is important, at different income levels and different education levels. That's key. I think that that's an important piece. Amazon's a very generous company. They're very philanthropic. They're very involved in different communities. I know in Seattle, they're involved in a big way. Here in Boston, they've been putting up some matches in different organizations. So I know they're philanthropic. I think one of the biggest things if they come here, I would love to see some of their executives get incorporated in our boards and commissions around the city, not ours, the city of Boston, but all the nonprofits. I think like GE did. GE made a great investment of $50 million when they first came here, but more importantly, I think in some ways, having the power of GE on different boards is important, the executives, so hopefully the same thing.
So really embedded in the community.
Yeah, we'd want them to be embedded, and I think they will be as well. I think they would be. I think that having a company like Amazon to come to Boston is exciting.
So as far as infrastructure, what does Boston need to do to get ready should Amazon put the second headquarters here?
We're doing it now. I mean, quite honestly, we've grown 85,000 jobs in the last 4 years, so our infrastructure is changing. I think when you talk infrastructure, it's not just roads and bridges and public transportation, it's education and schools because people want to live here. It's housing, making sure that we have the proper supply of housing. When I came in as mayor, in some ways we inherited a housing shortage. We launched a plan to create 53,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. We have about 52,000 of those either in the permitting process, under construction, or complete. So it's about housing. It's about that's the infrastructure we have to look at, and we're going to continue to grow. One of the things I heard about when Amazon went to Seattle was in the beginning they weren't quite, the housing production wasn't there. We're doing that in Boston. Whether Amazon comes or not, our goal is to continue to build more housing and create more opportunities for Boston. And I'm partnering with our cities and towns adjacent to Boston to do a regional housing plan. So that's really the answer to any growth. And it's not just Amazon, any growth, because companies are going to look to move to an area like Boston. They're going to want to say, what's the housing stock in your city, or what's the housing stock in your surrounding communities? And that's important.
If this is a tech revolution Boston is in right now, is there a chance in some way it could backfire? Could you have too much traffic or not enough housing? I know you've answered that question. What are your concerns about this great growth the city's undergoing right now?
I think one of the things, my constituents might not like the fact that there can never be, I don't view it as too much traffic. I know it's a situation, a burden to move around the city of Boston, but it is about growth. Boston's in a competition with other cities in America. Boston's in a competition with other cities in the world, and the more we can go and attract high-tech companies and startups and investment companies here and diversify our business portfolio is something that I think is really important. We have to figure out traffic. Traffic is not just a Boston problem. Traffic is a New York problem. It's an LA problem. It's a San Francisco problem. It's an Austin, Texas problem. It's a problem that we have to figure out, and that's where hopefully we should be able to count on the federal government to be able to help us with some infrastructure improvement when it comes to transportation, whether it's rail or public transportation or roads and bridges. That has not been the case across the board. So I think as far as a country, we need that infusion of investment made by the federal government.
Let's talk about the self-driving cars. This Boston, and I've said this before, may be certainly one of the capitals of self-driving cars. There was some trouble in March. There were a couple fatalities. Yeah. You put a hold on self-driving testing in the seaport. That lasted a couple days, as I remember.
Yeah, right? We did about a week. It was about 4 or 5 days and over a weekend, just to kind of see what happened with the accident, the tragic accident that happened, and we wanted to make sure that we put some safety safety precautions in place, making sure what's happening in Boston. I mean, you can never prevent something tragic happening, but making sure that it's less likely to happen. So that's what and they're back testing again.
So what are some of the things you've done in that week? You say you put in new safety measures.
No, we're just making sure that the safety plan that they have and where they're driving around. If they go into an area that has a little more density as far as people go, making sure that the safety precautions are there. I think that's some of the things that we're doing. They're still for the most part in the South Boston waterfront doing their testing down there. I had an event this morning and I was talking about Boston as an incubator and self-driving cars is an important incubator for us. We're doing other things, creative things in Boston. Some are working, some won't work, but if you don't try them, you don't know what's going to happen. So I think the self-driving cars, when it was first brought to me by Dan Coe, I said, he was telling me that in 30 years no one's going to be driving a car. And I said, if I'm still around, I'm driving a car. And I'm starting to think that in 30 years from now, if self-driving cars, I won't be driving a car.
Well, that leads me to my last question on this. Would you get into a self-driving car?
At some point, yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure I would.
I mean, I think we might be forced to at some point.